I just have learned so much from Bear. And if you've, paid attention, I post a few pictures here and there too. And today marked a moment of, the celebrations for a tiny little bit of progress. And so I just wanted to share it because there's so much to be learned from everything, every person, every animal, every flower, every season, every breath and heartbeat is an opportunity to learn something. And if you're interested in learning, then there is no end to teachers. They're just literally everywhere. Ask a question, and from every direction, everywhere in your life, answers are flying at you. And then you have to discern, what level of answer are you ready to receive? Because maybe an answer that made sense at some point in your life is lacking. It's not complete. You've put too many other pieces together, and that answer worked for that particular time and that particular maturity level or wisdom level or knowledge level. But as you add to it, the answers become far, far more reaching, deeper, more expansive, more inclusive, more complete. And the idea isn't to like right now, I say I have this complete answer, but I don't. I would never. I don't think it's ever a good idea to say that. There's very few things that as human beings we can say we understand perfectly and completely. There's always something inside of ourselves that is needing more experience in order to understand it more completely, to have the courage to try new things and expand your knowledge base so that you can understand something more completely. So I think it's a good thing to say, I know right now, but not to say I know, as in, this is the way it's always going to be, because that's kind of like slamming the door on progress. So for right now, this is what I the pieces that I have. This is the answer that I have now. And at some point, another piece will be added to that scenario that will then open my mind and my heart to another deeper, higher, more perfect and complete understanding, progress. But anyways, this is about Bear's progress, not about human progress. And Bear has this interesting thing. Now at home, looking in the mirror, he's fine. He gets it. He's at home. He's in a safe place. He looks in the mirror. He's like, yeah, whatever. But on the corner of Spadina and Highland, there is a large apartment building with a glass door front. And he pulls at me to get to this glass door front because the moment that he reaches the point where the glass begins, at the certain time of the day, which is mid-afternoon, the way the light shines, he can see himself very clearly, his reflection in this window. And in the beginning, he would just froth and bark and lunge and rah, and he would just like go at this dog that was like clearly not happy to see him either, because he was barking and lunging and frothing and just rah. This is like the worst battle you can imagine. And I would be like, but it's you, Bear. It's you, Bear. And he didn't care. He was just really in that fight, flight, or freeze state. And he's an alpha. He don't do the flight or freeze thing so well. It's like he either doesn't care or he cares entirely too much. So then I would take him and I walk him closer, because the window's like 3-4 meters away. And I walk him closer. And as you're closer, the way the light changes, suddenly the dog's gone. And he's like, where's the dog? And then we walk back, and there's that dog. He came back again, and he starts going at this window, and he's like, and then sometimes like somebody will come out of the elevator, and here's this dog freaking out, and they're like, I'm scared. I'm like, he's not barking at you, he's barking at himself. And I'm like, oh, okay. But this was what he went through, and nothing I could do could get him to understand that he started this when he sees this image of this animal that he considers to be a threat, and his fear spikes, and he's attacking, and then he's getting exactly what he gives out back again. And over time, I go by there regularly. I try to go by at least 5 or 6 times a week. We walk by that window because he needs practice. He'll always be afraid if I just avoid that window, and then he's stuck. There's no progress. He's just going to forever be afraid of that. And it doesn't also help there's a lot of dogs in the building. So this is not at home in a safe place. This is out in the world where his like little, senses are a little more heightened because he's in protective mode, you know, and there's the smell of other dogs there, and so there's territory. There's all sorts of primitive mind thinking going on. So we keep doing it. We keep doing it. And for months, there's no progress. It's just the same thing. And he will even walk a little bit beyond where he can see in the glass and then quickly go back a couple feet and then start barking madly because the dog's still there. And it's just comical, but at the same time, I have to remain very calm because I recognize that his fears are completely irrational fears. They are based completely in his reflection of himself, which is basically very parallel to the way humans process fears, you know. And what I noticed is that moving closer to the window is sort of like when you open your heart up and you move closer to a person that you're afraid of, when you move closer to a situation that makes you uncomfortable and afraid, when your heart is open, you're closer, suddenly it's gone, and suddenly you're seeing what's really there. And I think that's something that I came when I walked away from, was this idea that, you know, whenever that primitive mind takes over and we get that fight, flight, or freeze, you know, there's a lesson there. There's always a lesson there, and there's a lesson that must be learned. If you run away from it, you've just condemned yourself to being stuck. And so I take him back, and I take him back, and I recognize when he gets close, you know, all the fear goes away, and he's just sort of standing there going, okay, there's a room and an elevator, and what am I barking at? But we go back again, and that bear, you know, that dog shows up again, because that distance that between our empathy, between our open heart that can understand what's going on, to that distance, that, you know, that wall of understanding, that limit to our knowledge and our wisdom, that's where the fear comes from. It's darkness, fear, ignorance, same word, just different levels of understanding, different perceptions or ways of relating it in a conversation. But fear and darkness and ignorance, they're all the same thing. So today, and we've been going, and I've noticed that the last couple weeks there's been slight differences, but today he did well, because when he came and he doesn't pull as hard, so he's not in this race to get to that terror dog. So there's this a little calming effect ever so slightly, and then he gets there and he immediately barks, but he kind of pulls back, and it barks and he pulls back, and then I'm like, sit. And then I start rubbing his chest. And, oh, who's a good bear? Who's a good bear? And he's right here watching me. And who's a good bear? And I pet him on the head. I said, look, there's Bear in the window. Look at Bear in the window. Would Bear like a treat? Sit down, Bear. And he sits down, and I give him a treat. He says, look at Bear's getting a treat. And you're getting a treat. And Bear's a good bear. And I keep enforcing it. And then he'll, like, for a second, and then he looks at it again. And he says, arr! Then he smells at the grass for the other smells of different dogs, which is part of the triggers, those sensory things that bring up memories. So memories are other dogs' competition. And so he goes along, and we go past, and he sits and he looks and he barks and he goes, but it was like so much, and not progress that was like a drastic progress, but over the course of months from the way it was before, where he was like literally like pulling me forward, physically almost taking me off my feet and dragging me to the window, lunging, and like this excessive sort of fear state is now become this sort of like, he's still afraid, but not so much. So if I could look from the first time we went by the window to today, drastic progress, drastic change to a dog who's starting to recognize that I get a lot of attention for doing this, you know, and the less I bark, the more I get the pets, and I sit and I get my treats. And so he's being reinforced into this state that this window, whatever this fear is, may actually have some kind of a benefit to me. This lesson could be, you know, have a good payout. I mean, I'm getting treats, I'm getting love, I'm getting attention, and the more I am less afraid and accepting of what is true, what I'm learning from it, adapting to a new situation, a new body, a new way of dealing with it, the more I'm at peace. And so we walk around, and before that sort of agitation would kind of follow him until we were like a half a block away. Now, by the time we get to the corner, which is just a few feet away, he's just like, back on my walk. Do-de-do-de-do. So I just thought, everywhere is a lesson. Everywhere is an opportunity to learn. And, you know, Bear is a great teacher. And I just thought I'd share that with you, because if you're struggling with fear, the best way to deal with it, open your heart and get really, really close to it. Understand it inside out, upside down, backwards, forwards, in every possible way. Because that is the light that will dispel it and make it a lesson of your progression, a lesson of your perfection, a lesson of your peace and your freedom and your joy and all the great things that this material reality offers us that we don't get to experience in the spirit world. We just don't, because you need a physical body to experience fear. Eternal beings aren't afraid of physical things. That's the point of being here, is to shed a light on these things and show them what they really are. So stay blessed. And here's Bear. Here's the bear. Look at the bear. He's such a good bear. He's an eagle bear. Oh, can you see him? There he is. Look in the mirror. Look at the camera. Look at the camera.